You know that thing called masculinity? It has actually become really hard to get and easy to lose. And for young men like you, that means you might be feeling insecure, unconfident, unattractive, or one dimensional. That's why I'll help you become multi-dimensionally attractive, so you'll not only look good, but also be attractive in all 6 dimensions of life, so you can attract your dream life. And of course, I'll also teach you about bettering your testosterone, of course, since this is a video about masculinity. And the problem is that masculinity isn't so obvious anymore for young men. It really used to be because we had good role models. And nowadays, since we don't have those role models, who knows what actually is supposed to be real masculinity? Other than the men who's realized that fucking sitting here and doing nothing about it isn't going to help. Because we realize that men desperately need masculinity. They need their masculine core to stay sane. Otherwise, they won't actually know what their place is in the world and what is possible as a man. What the universe has gifted you. The possibilities you have as a young man today are huge. And growing up, I thought that masculinity was, evil. I was kind of conditioned by school and the woke society. I was the most insecure and unconfident me thanks to that because I wasn't secure in my masculinity. So how am I gonna, believe in myself and actually be some kind of attractive dude? I had zero sexual attractiveness, which is that pillar right there. And obviously it's huge when it comes to actually being attractive in your masculinity, your seductiveness, your polarity to women. That's huge for your attractiveness, your sexual attractiveness. So I didn't have that, but men historically have forced to build that. They've been forced to build it through proving themselves through these kind of rituals, through these rites of passages. But now becoming a man is unclear. Like for these young men right here, and this guy is actually from my father's home country. I don't know him, but he's from Guinea-Bissau. He's doing a thing called fanado, which is like you become a man by going out into nature like this, fully suited, right, fully killing animals and shit. And here there's some kind of indigenous culture thing making boys to men, right? And it's kind of the opposite for women, which is a funny thing because maybe being a woman was kind of unclear in the past, but now it's really actually kind of clear, and they can prove themselves just as much as they want, right? But us men are kind of lost. And we have this saying called, man up, right? That we need to man up. But we don't have a woman up because the funny thing is that a woman still simply is, but a man must become. And that is what's so confusing. We as men realize that, okay, we must become something. We must, challenge ourselves and man up. But what even is man up? What does that actually mean? I want to guide you through how you can actually do this, right? And step one is the Gen Z boy to man transformation, right? And step one in that is, most guys are becoming the man child. That's what I like to call it, right? They're kind of walking behind their girlfriend into a restaurant. He's on his phone, so the girl has to actually order for both of them, or even for him, and he can't even order for her, which is really strange, right? And he's wasting time in his fucking cummy bedroom, and his mother can smell it every time she comes in and has to do his laundry again, right? It's the man child. And these guys are gonna stay fucking children even well into their fucking 30s. There's some guys, I mean, there's a lot of guys, right, who are single and who are living in their mother's basement at 30. Like, it's becoming more common, and that's fucked up. Right? Realize that men used to be and look a lot different, like not even that long ago. Our great grandfathers looked and acted like real men in their teens, right? In their teens. I'm not talking about in their 40s, in their teens. They were out there, present, right? They felt purposeful and gave their valuable gift. They had some, every man had some type of gift that was clear to them, right? Maybe because their father taught it to them or another role model taught them. And then they, they gave that gift. They did what they were good at and they lived like that. They lived purposeful present. They weren't insecure and anxious. Why would they ever be, right? They were attractive, they were healthy, they had masculine confidence, right? And our big problems that fucking destroy our masculinity and confidence is being insecure and anxious. Just look at this guy right there. This is, a grandson of this guy. That's his grandson. This guy looks like a fucking Discord mod, and this guy looks like a man, and he might be under the age of 18 right there. That's crazy, right? But you can actually become your own man because we're still the same, we still have the same capacity as our great grandfathers had to be masculine, to be purposeful. Like, it's just been like kind of lost, like it's kind of a lost art to actually have that masculine purpose and confidence, but we can regain it, right? By having confidence in your purpose. And you can actually find kind of what your purpose, what your thing is with ikigai, and it's kind of a Japanese technique that has been developed, and you kind of find out what you love in life. You find out what the world needs right now. You find out what you can get paid for and what you're good at. And some rare, it doesn't have to be rare, but some activity, it can be a sport, right? If you really feel like you're suited to be an athlete, there's probably a sport that you love, right? That the world needs because who people want sports, people wants to watch and play sports, and that you can get paid for, so it's a career, and that you're good at. It could be like basketball, football, and all those sports fall under this thing, but you have to actually, it has to fit for you. And maybe it's not a sport, maybe it's a business that you actually start yourself, like becoming a content creator. That can actually be your ikigai, right? Or it could be a career that you actually really want to pursue. So you go be a doctor because you really want to, that feels purposeful for you in all these four categories, and you realize that it's something the world needs, and maybe you're good at medicine and stuff. So having confidence in choosing one path, actually finding your ikigai, not just saying, well, I don't know because I don't even know what a man is supposed to, do nowadays. Maybe I'm just gonna become a fucking trader. That isn't masculine at all because fucking, do you love trading? Nobody that is a trader or, dealing with crypto coins or investments really love it. Maybe 1% of guys do love that. But you have to make sure you start with something that you love. Just do that and just realize, make sure that you can get paid for it, that the world kind of needs it, and that you're kind of good at it, and you'll have that confidence, right? Also, work on your multidimensional attractiveness overall in your life because these things, sorry, will compound over time. And when something compounds over time, that means it literally gets double as valuable, then it gets like 5 times as valuable, then 50 times, then 1,000 times. It compounds. So if you become aesthetically attractive, which is kind of making sure that you are looksmaxing in a way, not doing the weird shit with the bone smashing and the peptides, but just doing the basics, right? And getting leaner, getting a nice face. Okay, you got some nice style as well. Then your physical attractiveness, you take care of your body, you go to gym, build your physique, take care of your diet so you can actually have health. Then lock in with everything else like sunlight, like nervous system, and the shit like that, right? Then you lock in with your sexual attractiveness. So by watching this guide, for example, you become confident in your masculinity, you have that purpose, right? Then social attractiveness, you become actually confident in social, you have social skills, charisma. Mental attractiveness, you have presence, and you have good mental health. And emotional attractiveness, you're actually self-aware, you can emotionally regulate, and you have a solid, secure attachment style. If you're at 8 in all of these, right? If you're 8 out of 10 in all of these categories combined, you will attract your dream life. Like your dream life will literally just come to you. So that's the meta, right? Always focus on that's your self-improvement. That's the big end goal, being multidimensionally attractive, right? Then there's a guy named Scott Galloway, and he kind of has three pillars that kind of suit men specifically, because anyone can become multidimensionally attractive, and that is the end goal. That is what you want to pursue. But just in terms of what a man can, what kind of role a man can play, he can be all these three, right? He can be the provider, protector, and procreator. Women, not so much, because it isn't natural to them to be the provider or protector or really procreator, really. But men can actually be all these. That is our gift, right? We can be all these three things because that's literally our ikigai, right? In the family, in our relationships, our ikigai is being the provider, protector, and procreator. And that's, provider is obviously providing with your kind of, not, it doesn't mean giving money, it means actually just being able to provide something, right? Provide some type of value. And it doesn't even have to be money. If your woman is making the money in the household, you could actually be providing by doing other things, right? By taking care of the house, whatever. Then protector is obviously making sure that your family, your kids, and people around you, your parents, your siblings, your relationships, everyone is safe, and that can fall to your shoulders. You don't have to fucking have a gun under your bed, but you can actually be a man that's capable of protecting them if something would happen, right? So building your body, being strong. And procreator is actually being able to be kind, to raise not raise someone. Well, obviously you're doing that if you have children, but if you don't have children, still being a good role model. And you can get all this, all these pillars, and the whole concept of become the man, the superior man, by reading this book, The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. I've read it. I really do recommend it for masculinity. It's really good. Now, step 2 is the testosterone part. You can 2x your testosterone naturally. It's actually possible. Like, you can actually 2x your testosterone, get a lot bigger, get a lot stronger, confident. Here I wasn't confident at all. I was a lot skinnier, hadn't really been going to the gym that much. Here, no problem. I fucking love going to the gym, lifting weights, fucking as a bodybuilder, kind of looking really good, confident. And high testosterone mirrors all those things because you're going to be lean, horny, happy, focused, muscular, energetic, and confident. That is like three fucking benefits that you just get from being higher, having high testosterone. And the average testosterone, though, it has been declining for some while by over 1% a year. Like the 1% a year figure might even be like too kind. It might be actually falling by multiple percentages by the year. So for the average young man today, that means that, your testosterone might be as good as your 70-year-old great grandfather, when he was in his 70s. He maybe had the same testosterone levels as a guy that's 25, 30 has today, right? But you can actually change that. You can easily become the top 1% of testosterone of young men, right? Having this high testosterone isn't like something that only our great grandfathers could have. There's guys in modern days that actually have high testosterone, and really high testosterone, and that makes them be that makes them be that makes them have the capability to do great things, right? And there's this thing called primal testosterone, right? That it wasn't just about the number, right? Because our ancestors didn't know if they're at 500 or 800 nanograms per deciliter or 1,000, and they probably were at like 2,000. But the thing is that they had no soft jawline, puffy face, gyno, low libido, or fucking porn addictions. They didn't suffer through any of that. They thrived, right? They are the reason that we are alive today because they could hunt, right? They could do great things. And that was true for our prime ancestors and even for our great grandparents, because what it really wasn't, getting out there hunting, being naked and riding fucking mammoths, but it was about their health. It was always about health. And nowadays we don't have health. That's why guys develop fucking like this, like women, right? And the testosterone protocol is as follows. You need to fix your hormones, right? And that means no plastics, so no plastic toothbrush, no plastic bottles, no plastic cutting boards. There's probably a lot of other stuff like coffee cups in plastic. Don't do that, or in paper because they're often plastic lined. No polyester clothing, right? So not the often gym clothes and stuff like that are 100% polyester, which is really bad. It kind of leaks into your skin. So do cotton or linen clothing only, preferably. And then pesticide-free food is what you want to get in terms of food. And I have my kind of restrictive diet, I call it, list here, which is a diet to make you sure you actually stay healthy and don't eat whatever you want, because then you'll probably eat highly processed, because in our grocery stores, basically 75% of the food are just processed bullshit. So here you have red meat, you have white basmati rice, you have chicken thighs, salmon, eggs, which you should eat a lot of. Don't be scared of that. Avocado, fruits, and vegetables. And vegetables, it doesn't always mix right with your health, because some vegetables can have a lot of antioxidants and stuff. So make sure you actually enjoy the taste really well of the vegetables. So carrots are probably pretty safe. And also what you want to do is have no perfume directly on the skin, and don't have fluoride toothpaste. Buy a natural fluoride-free toothpaste. Just fluoride-free toothpaste. That is what you want for the toothpaste. And perfume, don't put it on your skin, put it on your clothes, right? It will have that smell, it just won't last as long. And this is really key for these hormones, which are literally the signaling, things in your body that will actually then determine your whole health. And extras you can do is daily or often do a sauna for 20 minutes, a sauna session, and have it at like 90 degrees Celsius. So pretty hot. So you sweat a lot, you sweat all these toxins and stuff out. And also try to, if you can, it's a little bit expensive, but if you have the money for it, install a reverse osmosis water filter. This is really good because the tap water isn't, guaranteed to be really clean, especially in some countries it's actually fucked up, it's really unclean. So installing that just below here, like below your sink, is actually really good because it filters the waters, makes it really clean. And also, if you don't live in Europe, don't touch receipts, right? Receipts will have a lot of those microplastic BPA's, phthalates and stuff. That's horrible for you as well. And then just have consistency, sorry, with the basics, right? With gym, sunlight, protein, and sleep. Because, if you're doing all, avoiding all these plastics, doing sauna, having the water filter, but you're not even going to the gym, exercises, you're not getting sunlight, you're not getting protein, you're not getting sleep, then it won't work, right? So you got to do that. Now, step 3 and the last part in the guide is masculine intelligence equals emotional intelligence, right? So you shouldn't be afraid of having emotional intelligence, and this is why. Because masculine emotion and connection is super important, even though men are kind of wired to be more lonely than women, because testosterone inhibits oxytocin, and obviously men have more testosterone. But because as you can see, a stressed woman cannot cope with bonds. She copes with uh, finding bonds or going to her bonds like her female friends, and coping with them and getting, feelings expressed and stuff. But a stressed man often goes into fight or flight. And that is the problem, that these men and most men do that because they don't have the emotional or social skills to just rely on somebody else to have relationships, to kind of have this connection, right? That doesn't mean you have, deep fucking talks all the time, but just being able to connect emotionally is really important. But men need that relationship. They need relationships more even than women. So emotional social skills are really important. And actually, when in an older couple, if the husband dies, the woman is actually pretty fine, right? Even if she's alone. But when the woman dies first, earlier, the man gets really fucking depressed, suicidal, and stuff. Like, it doesn't really work out that well. So when you do figure out how to, which I will tell you, when you do have high emotional intelligence, Men are socially graceful, they're outgoing, cheerful, not as fearful or worried. They can also commit to people or causes, take responsibility, and have ethics, right? They're sympathetic, they're caring in relationships, and they're comfortable with themselves. And all these men have this in common. These two are fictional, but this guy, Keanu Reeves, is a real person, and they mirror that, and that's why they're actually so confident, which then makes them attract that dream lifestyle, right? So, how you can be that guy, cultivate some emotional intelligence. Firstly, should you cope? Black pill, go, but looks is all that matters. I don't care because if you don't look at it, you're not gonna whatever in genetics. No, you shouldn't think that. You shouldn't actually blame women and think that women are the problem. Women are being more masculine, so that's why we can't be masculine. That's also bullshit. And you shouldn't just go follow the manosphere just because these men have fucking short-term benefits in having money, having status, whatever, having some hoes, because that isn't either your dream lifestyle. So why would you actually follow someone that isn't kind of um, talking about your dream lifestyle and talking about some lifestyle where they just have hoes, right? Systemically, like in a bigger picture, we need more masculine bonds, right? This, you shouldn't fuck this, but you should have more masculine bonds, right? And that can be competition, that can be playful competition, that you compete because that is fun, especially when you do optimize your testosterone levels. And you also need less neediness for women, so not fucking thinking of women all the time, or when you actually want to have a woman, you can't just be needy for it. You can't go around catcalling women, right? That's what men needs to work on. So adopt also this mindset that everything is my fault, right? You need to take full responsibility for your life. That is what a man is supposed to do, because there's no cope, right? You can't cope with, but it's my upbringing, my father left me or something. That's true that there are circumstances, but everything plays out the way you deserve it to play out. So you need to take responsibility for everything that happens in your life, even if it's terrible shit. That's the growth mindset, right? That will cause you to actually grow the most. And what you need also to go further is to not be stuck in this adaptive child, and that's the bad child version of you that keeps you in boy mode. It's when you grew up, you weren't always a perfect child. Probably you kind of had this bad version of you, right? And the world will reward you for being this adaptive child in boy mode and complaining and not taking responsibility. But your relationships, the the relationship you have to your family, to a woman, to children and stuff, they will crumble. They need that guy that has isn't stuck in some adaptive child, and every time something goes wrong, he fucking goes back into that child version and can't be the man, right? Can't be emotionally intelligent like a real man is supposed to be. So how do you fix this? Well, firstly, you don't just look smacks, right? Because clavicular, as you can see, he's still stuck in that fucking child. Every time something happens, some kind of emotion gets um, evoked on his stream, or when he's dealing with people, women, or other guys in person, he goes into this child version, right? He goes into this fucking crying child and is gonna do crazy shit, and that's why he got arrested. That's why a girl fucking slapped him on stream. You can't just look more masculine. You have to be more masculine. You have to be it for real. You have to be about that. You can't just fucking look more masculine. That won't help. And he's obviously been stuck in that adaptive child or teenage version of himself that fucking shot up testosterone up his ass at like 14 years old, because he was so insecure. He was so like felt so ugly and rejected that he needed to inject a bunch of steroids to just feel normal like a man. That is the problem of our fucking generation. We go to these extremes, and that's ruined his life forever, right? He can't come back from that. You have to fix this automatic behavior that every time something happens emotionally, you go into some fight mode or flight mode or fix mode, and that's probably different depending on the person. So some guys might go into fight mode, like maybe clavicular. Some guys might go into flight mode. They might be, emotionally distant or run away from the problem, or some guys need to go into fix mode, that they just can't defend themselves. They need to fix everything, and they constantly overthink and have a lot of ruminating thoughts. Their thoughts are all over the place all the time. So you need to realize what your automatic behavior is. Is it fight, flight, or fix? And try to just tell yourself to go back to the present. And this is how you do that. You can bring yourself back to the present every time some kind of emotion gets invoked in you and you feel like going into fight, flight, or fix mode. You can bring yourself back to the present where you are calm, masculine, and grounded by firstly having self awareness. And that means meditation daily. Meditation is just a meta skill for everything in life to become better. If you're good at meditation, you're good at collecting your thoughts, bringing them back to focus. And how you do meditation is basically just like 5 minutes, right? You can start with 5 minutes. And what you do, you sit down, you breathe, right? You close your eyes and you focus on some part of your breath. So either it's your belly going out when you exhale in, or sorry, inhale, and out in when you exhale. So your belly moves, or it's the air coming into your nose or out from your nose. You kind of envision your breath through that, like inhale, exhale. Don't try to breathe super deep in a special pattern. Just breathe normally, right? Set a timer on your phone, by the way. And then you're gonna try to focus on that, but you're gonna get some random thought like, oh, I wonder what food I'm gonna eat today for breakfast or whatever. You're gonna think about some random shit, or like, oh, what happened yesterday? Then you realize that I'm not focusing on my breath anymore. I'm thinking about some different shit. So then you're gonna focus back onto your breath. Okay, I'm focusing back on the breath, inhale, exhale stuff. And that means you've kind of done a bicep curl, a rep of a meditation. That's one rep. And you consistently do that, of course, because you're gonna get fleeting thoughts again and you're going to bring yourself back. You keep this up until the timer goes off. You can start with 5 minutes, then work yourself up to like 20 minutes. You can even do more per day, right? Then managing your emotions. This is also super key. This is the next step. After you become more self-aware of what you are feeling, you need to actually be able to manage those emotions. And I like to do journaling daily. So I like to do journaling in the morning, where I do gratitude journaling. So I write down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for that day. And it can be things that happen to me or just things that, are I'm supposed to be grateful for. Like I live in a good country, like I have good health, and stuff like that. I have good family and relationship, stuff like that. And then I also like to journal in the evening, ending my day with just journaling like today's emotions. What did I feel like today? Like 3 things that I did good today. So I actually know what I did good, what got me closer to my goals. Like that's really good to manage those emotions that you cultivate during the day. Step 3 is motivating yourself, because that's also needed to just be able to be present. You want the present moment to not just be relaxed, a fucking monk, mindful. You also want, some kind of motivation, some kind of fire, right? And all your bad habits, like scrolling, like gooning, like eating junk food, like just wasting time, smoking, drinking alcohol, partying, whatever it is, all these bad habits, if you do them in excess, or some, if you do them at all, you're actually demotivating yourself, because you're fucking releasing a bunch of dopamine, which is your motivation hormone, in excess. And then it's gonna get really high when you maybe fucking orgasm to porn, and then it's gonna sink below what you actually started with, below your baseline. So you're gonna be super demotivated. That's why you need to fucking progressively quit all those bad habits, or you're fapping every day, right? So that's 30 times per month. Next month you're gonna do 20, then 15, then 10, whatever. You're gonna progressively quit until you're at 0, and start at the same time cultivating more and more good habits. So 2 of those can be meditation and journaling, right? So you bring in those habits, and then you also have some goals in life, right? Make like three big pillars of goals. Some can be about your economical success, some can be about your relationships, whatever, some can be about your fitness. Three big goals, and make sure these habits are helping you to get there. And meditation journaling definitely does. So, for recognizing emotions in others, that is also really key for this emotional intelligent man you need to become, right? And what you can do is make a gratitude text, send that to a person, whoever you feel connected to, or someone that you might not be that close with, but you really feel that you should express gratitude towards because they were a good person to you, they helped you with something, right? And just send that text, I'm grateful for you, because it doesn't need to be anything more than that. And also, when you're in conversations, try to ask deep questions, not even, because that's your partner or whatever, and you really want to get to know their background or something, but just have that as a conversational goal to, yeah, you can have small talk, but nobody actually likes small talk. So try to go deeper, right? Try to always connect with the person you're talking to. And fifth, handling those relationships you do, cultivate the relationships you build in life. And that is by prioritizing your purpose always. Your purpose, that ikigai I talked about, right? This ikigai thing, that is what you want to actually prioritize, because then when you prioritize that, you feel secure in your life. You feel like you have something that you love and you're good at, that you're paid for and stuff. That will make it a lot easier to then handle your relationship, and don't you can actually be purposeful. So you have something bigger, that then if your relationship would fail, you wouldn't just be without your purpose, right? You don't need your relationships to be everything, to be the purpose in life, right? So think of someone like Kobe. He started like just grinding out what he loved, right? His purpose, basketball. He just thought, it's me versus me. I'm gonna be right here shooting the free throw. That's what's gonna, both make him super present in the moment, because he is thinking about himself. He's just thinking about, I'm gonna become better at basketball. That's my purpose, right? So that's why he's here. When nobody else is on the court, he's there shooting free throws. And then in the game, because he focused on being present, because he focused on having purpose, he 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 built some kind of presence and confidence in that. So when someone tries to do something to him, this guy was kind of taunting him with the ball, right? It doesn't even react, because he's been through building that presence. He's right there in the moment, and he knows that it's connected to his purpose, being that basketball player he envisions himself to be. So, therefore, he also gets the reward at the end. He also gets to win. You can win in life, right? And the golden rule to end all this is to do what you want, right? Do what, no, not what your parents told you, not what your friends are doing, not what someone like Andrew Tate or the manager or whatever tells you to do. Do what you really genuinely want to do. That what you want to do is where you'll be happier and get the most, the best chance to actually cultivate everything we've talked about in this video. If you do something that you don't want to do, you'll obviously not bring out the best qualities of yourself. But in the golden rule, you can do what you want, but always treat people like you'd want to be treated. That is the second part to it. That is the main, that is, yeah, like what actually makes you be good at relationships, which obviously is kind of the most important thing in life. You can do what you want, you can love your life, you can have purpose, but you also need to be able to treat people like you'd be want to be treated. That's how you'll get the most out of life, become multidimensionally attractive. And yeah, that's it for this video. You can join my Discord server, which is a free server. You can talk to me for free, ask me questions. It's linked in the top description below this video. Don't be one-dimensional, become multidimensionally attractive. Peace!